Hello. Good evening. Thank you for coming. So, welcome to the Dave Show Midstream Reading Series. I'm Diane Jarvenpa, one of the 4 hosts, and it's so good to see you coming out on Pi Day. Just a quick note, there are restrooms just down this hall and then down that hall, and then there's just take a bunch of rights. And then there's a handicap bathroom also in the basement. There are no books available except for some amazing thing later on that will be a surprise for us all. So I'll just leave that hanging there. Let's see, is there anything else I've forgotten to ask? Yes. So the tradition at Midstream is always to go around the room and give us your name and what your connection to writing might be, whether you're a poet or a bookseller or a reader or a writer of any kind. So I'm going to start here.
Howdy, my name is Frank Hudson. I do a thing called the Parlando Project for the last 8 years or so, where I compose music and combine it with poetry in various ways.
Is it your own poetry or other people's?
It's other people's.
Cool.
I'm Jim Gabe, and I'm mostly just a reader.
Thank you. We need readers. Very important.
Marion?
Yeah, I'm Marion Gómez. I work at the Lost Literary Center. So I do a lot of support for writers. And I guess I'm a writer myself. And a reader.
Hello, I'm Bjorn. I'm just
My support.
I'm Tom Owendahl. I'm a writer.
I'm Morgan Grace Willem. I'm a poet. I read them all, and I am a poet.
I'm Jane Dickerson, ditto, and I'm also an avid reader.
I'm Paul Bettis. I'm a poet and one of the hosts.
Richard Terrell, hosting next month. Hope to see you here.
I'm Eric Berger, and I'm a reader.
I'm Marion Tweed, I'm a poet.
Anthony Ceballos, I'm a poet, and I also work at Birchbark Books and Native Arts.
I'm Tim Young, I'm a writer.
Colin and Caroline.
Oh, Joel Turnipseed, I'm a poet. I'm a reader. I'm Dad Teller.
I'm Mark Walker, one of the co-hosts and a poet.
I'm Lyra Hernandez, I'm married to him. Which one?
I'm Roy Guzman, and I dislike AI.
Oh, how do I follow that? Hi, I'm Julie Coleman. I'm Marion. I'm a poet, and I work at a library.
I'm Vicki Lyman, I'm a reader.
Well, welcome to you all. So the other tradition is that the host reads a little something. So I'm just going to read one little poem, and then we're sorry to say that Freya Manfred was scheduled to come, but she's kind of had some health issues. So we're hoping she'll be coming in October. So stay tuned for that. So in lieu of that, I thought I'd read this poem for Freya. She often writes poems about water and swimming. That's very common themes for her. So this is dedicated to Freya. It's called Swim the Compass. Jump out of the canoe, backstroke that lake. Find that pulse others carry with them. Those pilgrims of fluent beauty, that silvery astringent power scent of youth that you only feel in water. Praise the float. Revenge not touching bottom. All imperfect outsides, now a pale body hum. This is where you join your family of swimmers, as if any of your timid ways mattered anymore. Who would know? All perfect pain kicked off, to drop through layers of waving weeds, past baby bluegills, and bounce down to the mud below, to sit with snapping turtles, to emerge with those sweet iridescent satin ribbons of wet, not yet balanced on land, but buzzing like a new flower facing sun. Anthony Ceballos lives in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and can be found penning staff recommendations at Birch Bark Books and Native Arts. In 2022, he was part of the inaugural Indigenous Nations Poets Retreat in Washington, D.C. He has been published in Yellow Medicine Review, Waterstone Review, and the recent anthology, Another Last Call, Poems on Addiction and Deliverance, among others. He is a first-generation descendant of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Please welcome Anthony Ceballos.
Thank you, Diane and Midstream. My father was called by the same name. Now I am called. Listen, does it transfuse my blood with aromatic bitter, or is it just a fissure, red, infected, that weeps when I hold a pen too tight, tight enough to call a pulse, a prayer to bring you back, though I know no incantation has yet to stop the falling scythe, or reverse the irreversible cessation of all your biological functions. Listen, someone wants to reach you, but it's my body that sways to the ring. Instead, have I had a chance to tell you, death is the distance that separates who we are, but you still are. My father, I am your only son. Look, in my hands I hold a name, ours, this proper noun we share. Oh, how you follow me still. Death of the father is death of the eyes, hands, skin, the tongue, teeth, voice, soft tissue, the nervous system, respiratory system, all his systems failed by the cruelty of American systems, acid, esophagus, stomach lining, one lung rots, now two, all gone, death of air and water disappeared, the oceans, rivers, elms, trillium and goldenrod, the bittered sweet grass, oh wrathful Helios. This is an absent light at the end of the world. This is an absent man from the beginning of life. This is a death in the home, the family, the brain, death of the eardrum as it hears vertebrae snap. This is one way a father can die. Bottles piled on bottles, piled on bottles, blood and body. Here is what we lose to dirt, man and men, children of men, or the only child of a man. This is the death of an unhappy marriage. These are the voices a mother hears at night. Silence on the line, in the line, a pocket, breath where breath should never be. Attack on a heart, tacked to the wall, dropped receiver, now the line is dead. Now a father and son fade to carbon. This was the senior who begat a poet, whose name was a legacy of blank paper, who embraced the azure until it burned, until it became a cloud of Acherontia. Father, this is how I speak of death. And ash erupted from my mouth, my voice, all you have left. Eastbound 21. My body on a 21. My body an eastbound echo of my father's, his own 21. Our brown skin scarred against ragged blue velvet upholstery, taste of the transit god. I imagine a throne for poets, fools and sons. I am all three, but my trinity is not divine. My father, I am your echo. Listen for an engine just down the road. Before I fade, like all good echoes, I will close my eyes and fall asleep. Cash is wayfaring stranger in my ear. As we cross the Milky River, I'll dream. 2 white wings over the wheel, we float, drift toward our final stop. When I wake, you will be there. You will know my face, my confusion, my father. You will take my hand in yours. You will say, we're home. At dawn, bel canto, for Maria Callas. I am told there is a will. If you listen closely at night, you might hear it sing. And sometimes I imagine the song of Maria Callas, Vise darte, vise demore, an aria composed divine, a voice beyond the stars. The edge of my bed ashore, as wave overcomes this collection of bone and muscle, blood, skin, and teeth I have known as body. Water reaches for water, and upon the crest there are no butterflies, only the swollen night, breath gone, lungs heavy, sharp with crystal salt. No man waits for the fall. Who waits for me? Flood upon the stage. There is a will. It gives itself away to dawn. It gives itself away to love. I have given myself away to men in hope of love, to mourn in hope to forget. What ruin lays before me, what bell is never rung, and through the fog a silver ship arrives at dawn, bel canto. The hands of 2 brown men. 2 strangers sit together on a crowded bus. 2 hands, years apart, find each other bound by a journey east on Lake Street. Both hands carry history. One is scarred, rusted, split, dried and wrinkled. A single leaf left beneath the weight of some merciless sun. The other is embraced by light, radiant, like a fresh coat of paint layered over 4 new walls, across a sturdy frame, a home to bless the broken soil. Both are a window, a reflection. When a firm grip meant immortality, now his joints moan a prayer. Now the water glass crashes down. Now he will learn to let go. 2 brown hands on a bus share their lives. to grab a punch, shape it into words on a sheet of paper, arrange it like food for another's plate, guide it to an open palm's embrace. An offer of peace dissolves the fist. 2 hands, third hands, plan a revolution, crack knuckles, tap to a rhythm only they can hear. 1 hand reaches for the yellow cord, the other waves a brief farewell. This is my final poem. It is called I Sang, I Sang. It came down the road one night. It came over the water, across the sky. It came in a needle. It poured from a bottle. Along the shore I found a shell, held it to my ear, and yes, I could hear it there. My mother's voice was not her own, but a moth that sang a tuneless lullaby. It tore the leaves from trees, left them scattered on the cold cement. Everything was ice, frozen in the middle of a second. And all the sparrows and doves began to fall away from heaven, should our heavens be, as I stood where the road reaches water, as it shrouded earth in an endless squall, and I sang for the sun I could not find. I sang for my mother a gentle lullaby. I sang for the sparrow and the dove. I sang for the sky, sang for the shore, the trees, and all their scattered leaves. I sang until I could sing no more.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for your singing. Marion Gómez is a poet and teaching artist based in Minneapolis. She has been awarded grants from the Minnesota State Arts Board and the Loft Literary Center. Her work has appeared in La Beloga, Mizna, Waterstone Review, and St. Paul Almanac, among others. She is the member of the Latinx spoken word collective Palabristas. Please welcome Marion Gómez.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Anthony. It was so beautiful. My last reading was also with Anthony, so 2 in a row. I'm so lucky. So yes, this first poem, it's a really old poem. Sometimes I feel kind of like an imposter as a writer because most of my time is dedicated to my day jobs. But I think it's a good poem to start with. It's about my last name. So it's called Mi Apellido Es. Gómez, a scar left by salvating conquistadors in search of their gilded man, summoning the ship that carried my great-grandfather across the Atlantic, the blood in and on the hands, the lush palmas de Barranquilla, Colombia, I've only seen in pictures. A tombstone to the language my father buried with his father to embrace my mother's English. A 5-letter word floating in the pot, refusing to melt. A badge offering partial membership, hanging below a face that can pass among the white pines of Minnesota. A kiss from my father before bed, a maiden name no one will ever change. So actually, I was in a writing group with Morgan a few years ago, and I workshopped this poem when I was in that group with her. And I've recently changed the title. I didn't use what you suggested. So you can let me know. Morgan suggested was Pink Petals. Okay, so if you think that's better than what I got, let me know. Because I'm not sure what I got is any better than what it was before. It's called Born Again. A baptism under the shower head to wash away the shame caked to my skin like dirt. The warmth of the water takes the place of the love I cannot give myself. I linger for longer than I should, making me late for work. The water opens up another realm where all is smooth and clear. I am given a new body to start again. With a washcloth, I scrub away the unwanted buildup of my past skin and watch scabs wash down the drain. In their place, new pink-colored skin, the shape of petals. My hair darkens from a light brown to almost black. The water does to my hair what my last name does to my race. I stand like a thirsty flower in the rain, watering myself, each cell at a time. So I'm cheating, but I do read this. This next poem isn't mine, but it inspired the next poem that is mine. So I really do want to read this poem with it. It's called Tonight, and it's by Diane Osman. Tonight is a drunk man, his dirty shirt. There is no couple chatting by the recycling bins, offering to help me unload my plastics. There's not even the black and white cat that balances elegantly on the lip of the dumpster. There's only the smell of sour breath, sweat on the collar of my shirt, a water bottle rolling under a car. Me in my too small pajama pants stacking juice jugs on neighbors' juice jugs. I look to see if there's someone drinking on their balcony. I tell myself I will wave. And my poem starts with the similar, I think the first two, they're similar, the first lines, the first words of the lines are the same. So mine is called En route to Minneapolis from Elbow Lake on Highway 55, after Diane Osman. Tonight is a two-lane highway. It's dotted lines. There is no traffic ahead or behind me. There's not even a stoplight to slow me down. There is only the light from my headlights illuminating the short yellow lines on my left. Darkening cornfields on each side, mileage markers to the cities my father passed through over 50 years ago. I look to see if there's a shadow of him standing by the roadside. I tell myself I will stop and pick him up. Thank you. I wrote that poem in a class with Sun Young Shin, and so she had us read that poem by Diane and then steal as much of it as we can. So, so I hope I made it my own, but I'm very indebted to Diane for her poem. I actually read this poem like 2 years ago when I did this reading online, a very rough version, and I did some fixing of it today before this reading, so it's probably still pretty rough. But when I wrote this poem, Fernando Botero was still alive, and he has since passed. But it's still addressed to him, because why not? I'm kind of obsessed. Near my work, on Washington, there's a Botero sculpture. It's boxed up a lot of the year because it's Minnesota. But if you weren't aware, you can go to Washington Avenue. I think it's, I'm blanking on the cross street, but it's there. So this is called a boxed up Botero. Fernando, one of your sculptures, the dancers, stands a few blocks from where I work, in the city I live, 4,632 kilometers from where you were born, in the same country as my father. I wonder what your dancers think of the Midwest. My father has grown used to the winters. He doesn't like them, but doesn't leave before they start anymore, and learned to not take outdoor work during the 6 months of the year if he can help it. During the winter, the city boxes up your dancers to protect them from the harsh conditions. Sometimes I wish I could box up my father to protect him. During that first year of the pandemic, I thought for sure I was going to lose him when he tested positive for COVID-19. If not for my uncle suggesting we get a pulse oximeter, we might have. That machine, like the dancers do for you, Fernando, communicated for my father when his words didn't match the CDC's word, fatigue. A word foreign to my father, but not foreign to me, and the one I was waiting to hear him say. Instead, the number 84 said it was time to call an ambulance, and I prayed that box not be a coffin. Okay, that's my last father poem. I promise. This next one is called The Sea Lion and Me and Our Beautiful Bodies. On the sand we are sacks of potatoes, 2 large lumps, but the water allows our bodies to glide. Removing the heaviness, we become buoyant. The water is generous, making room for us, unlike the hot, oppressive air, pinning us to the ground, hungry for our space. We rest on the shore until we can again divide the water, away from people and picnics. The sea lion is my mother, her long flipper draped over me, her blubber pressing against my body, cooling my skin, while her whiskers kiss my face. The sea lion does not suck in her belly, but lets it glisten like a giant sweet potato, unashamed because the water accepts her, parts for her, welcoming her with every dive. I would love to ride on the back of my sea lion mother, my life preserve, her short, thick hair my reins, as her powerful body pushes forward. Thank you. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Marion. That's beautiful. So this is the time of the evening where we pass the basket around to thank the church for their generosity in hosting Midstream. So I'm just going to send it around. There's no pressure, but thank you. So while we're doing that, I'm going to just mention what is happening next month. Richard Terrell will be hosting, and we'll be celebrating the new anthology, Broad Wings, Long Legs. It's a rookery of heron poems, and the readers will be the poet and editor of the anthology, Jim Rogers, as well as Jim Armstrong, Emily Bright, and me, because we're all in the anthology. So that'll be April...
I don't know.
The second Thursday, is it the 14th again? 14th. Okay. All right, so you're welcome to come. Celebrate birds. So Joel Turnipseed's Gulf War memoir, Baghdad Express was a 2003 Barnes & Noble Discover Great New Writers selection. His work has appeared in Granta, GQ, New York Times Book Review, New York Times Magazine, VQR, and elsewhere. He is currently working on the documentary Poetics Project based on the photo archives of a World War II engineering officer called War Machine. Please welcome Joel Turnipseed.
Hi, thank you everyone. So I did, this is a bit of an involved project, so I'll talk a little bit about its genesis and then you get little pieces of it. But some years ago, a friend of mine was a house flipper, back when that was thought to be a good idea to make money in 2007. And he called me one day and he said, I got this abandoned house for like nothing and it's got stuff in it, and I found this stack of photos starting in 1890 and ending in 1946 of a Minnesota farm family and their kid who went to the U and then became an engineering officer in World War II. And the last photos of him in his pajamas in the U of M hospital. Do you want them? And as a person who had written a war memoir, I'm like, do I want them? What do you mean, do I want them? And they sat there forever. And one day I was talking to my friend Brad Zeller, who does a lot of the stuff with Alex Soth. And he said, well, just, I don't know, do something with them. So I laid them all out on the floor one day, and it came about 50 of them that became sort of meditations for thinking through what World War II meant to people who lived it, suffered it. And one of the most striking things about a guy who was never on the front lines is the infrastructure that accelerated the 20th century was built so fast by those guys. You know, they would build an entire Air Force base in like 3 weeks and then go to another country and build another Air Force base in 3 weeks. And you just realize, and all the satellites and radios and highways, we used to not be that connected and or able to destroy the earth that fast. And so I just saw this guy go from the U of M and the bright lights of the 30s to these devastated places that he took place in devastating. And I just wrote these, over the years, little poems about what I thought from them. So I'll read some tonight. But each of them has an accompanying photo in the ultimate production. Can I put these where they won't fall down? Oh, here. Perfect. So that's the setup. Nature's rhyme. First snow woke darkness from light after war-tinted days. We planted the alphabet of desire, multiplied it into life. In its season of death, rhyme pressed bows and broke branches, birthed in spring. What is essential lies beneath deceit's patterns sold as nature. What shifted shapes form after our hastened destruction? We built bridges of bones, built them over everything, cast stones as promises, redefined time as what comes next, renamed the rupture of icy rivers, rebirth, and all other death a mistake. We wrapped time itself in white, circled all bodies with ice, expecting it to sing, celebrated it as beauty, even as we came to know it as fear. So, the photo of this one is a B-34 bomber taking off in Canada. Was not likely coming back, for those of you watching the Apple TV show right now. Something like 70% casualties in Europe. So you got a 7 in 10 chance of not coming back on your flight. Death 7. It's just gray skies today, like tomorrow. Like what you might imagine all tomorrows pilfer from today to store surprise at night. Your death depended on the depth of that gray, a specific sky charged with nervous light. One shadow of nature, just a cartoon of a shadow of a man. A specific man, a specific shadow of death, dropping trapped sky from sky that will turn all it touches to sky. A refined sense of the coarseness of life, the desuetude of boredom trapped in a can, waiting for its expiration. You are made in America. Heaven is just a shade away from its own destruction, a speck missed for a speck now become missed forever. Just, the adverbial form of injustice. So they still had these summer fairs during the war from everywhere home, and little kids were running around while this was all going on. And a funny thing, summer life is still just going on. All right, so this one's called Children Running Out of Time. 1. Even the open field mown slowly in morning holds hazards. 2. What place a time finds you does not bind future to your stride, nor cadence to calling, nor any finish line to best's wishes. Time conspires to frame you, a conviction made for escaping. 3. Weed stumbled, flower stomped, competition's garden is ever the fair victim of design, but hazard always complicates fate. You, placed, are never fully where you are unless dull reality has habituated you. You, original wildness. You, your rhizomes spreading underground for dream feeding. You, uncaptured by captains and catalogs. Stain your dress heavily with grass and ashes, mud and rain, and the tears that salts other expectations forever. Grow wildly. 4. Failure's face fills mirrors with grace, grimacing against wreck. Ruin's almanac always forecasts a season in hell. Burn freely there, unmoved as sparks spare nothing but the essential germ of you, time destroyer, eluding future even as you lead past. This moment cannot be taken, even in pictures. Well, there's like 40 more of these, but I only had one planned, so I don't know how we're doing on time. I'll read the intended, and then we'll see if anyone wants more. So the last dream is there was a funny little note on it. There's a picture of a Japanese Zero that was all decayed next to where they were staying. And the guy in the note said, walk by him every day, nothing changed. I thought that was a peculiar thing, like to notice on the way to work every day. A machine dreams in green. Machine dream recovered in green. Each day the ash recedes around the steel and bones and cloth, molding into green again. Our hero's dead and still piloting our nightmares like a well-wound Hamilton, and the night a slow twisting iridescence of slight-sticked hands. Waking is a new noise in the universe, not morning revealing, but covered, regreened, the man-metal alloyed to make dreams shoot shadows on the day, the small winding of miscalculation of our disappearance. All right, so I'm going to open the phone and see if I can still read phones. I keep saying I'm rounding up to 60, and Lyra doesn't like that. All right. I like this one. So this one is, this kid I think I couldn't tell, I don't know the person's name anywhere in the archives, but he had pictures of his own airplane, and he had a farm, and I'm like, was he some like super rich farm kid that built his own airplane? Because they used to build them by kids when they had to do crop stuff, and I'm like, wow, 1 minute on your farm with chickens, and the next you're sailing on Lake Winnetka. Not the farm life I would have thought from the Depression. So this one's called Siren Sailing. Unmoored, we tacked hard into our horizons. Walls we built of blue, brilliance a shade for which no name rose its flag. Our lines shook hard, snapped back to lessons learned this way, by the beauty of skirting failure far enough to its edges that we beheld the future, defined new origins together, not rib, not dread forest-ridden goddesses wrestling yesterday back out of tomorrow, but drawn fresh today and nameless, formless, our hunger still birthing what it will devour. So some of the rich, fancy photos from before the war are spread through the collection, so you remember that he was a rich kid at the U of M before he did all this stuff. December 8, 1941. Somebody told me that day meant something. One of the things they did, he was in Minneapolis at the U, and when they were raising money and getting everyone to join up, they would take cars from Pearl Harbor with white paint written around all the machine gun bullets to get everyone to leave the U of M and go sign up. As a recruiting tool. They just called me and told me I had to go. Nothing fancy. Just show up at 7:30 tomorrow morning. December 8, 1941. Bombs dropped on the radio silence of our desire to build a new world without war, with cereal and telephones instead. Salvation sounding like Kellogg and Bell, with whatever music stars make came audible by autumn. But whatever music stars make came audible by autumn, red dreams falling. The future in all its imagination. Snow fell when the call came, car next, bullet riddled with news, the affairs of the day, turned forces ash, our bonds requiring cash, a green stuff for death feeding, ends final ration. Hell hot, hell yes, but our despair is known by cold, by white, by a blue that shatters. Low ceilinged gray hangs hard on our new future, and even piercing heaven is no guarantee of better light. The newspaper stained the present to our hands, fingerprinted us in our daily manner, criminal in even the smallest of tasks, not yet committed to war words, to death deeds. Whatever yesterday yearned for had now been drowned in the new darkness, as solstice riddled, as we relearned doubt, as we re-engineered despair. FDR and his fireside burning America first to ashes couldn't heat the cold fact that there's no way to prove that the sun must rise, or even that there must be such a fancy to hold as tomorrow. This is one of those poems that's clever on the page, and then you read it and everyone says, dude, but you can't read that. It's got a poem inside the poem. I don't know how people read those well. Sun Young reads her poems like that well. She's got a divided river poems. And how do you do that? Vanishing point. The half-devoured planet at its furthest travel contains, as at any other point, the end, stretching out to its beginning in our imagination. Numbers converging to love, stretching forever without limit from where we stand in awe. Every form of destruction flies out from this point, our situating moment in action. All right, one more long one and then we're done. So one of the very funniest things in this guy's photo set is he would do things that I found, I think, intentional and funny. But he had a page with 4 photos of these tiny ass little one building things up in Churchill, Canada, where they were building the air base up on the Hudson Bay. And you notice there's 4 buildings, 3 banks and 1 church. I'm like, boy, you had a, how want I have a beer with you? You think like I think. It's such a funny thing. All right. Which was I going to read? I was going to read the one with the little poem inside the poem. Where'd it go? There it goes. Oh, we heard that. All right, last one. So this one's called The Everyday People of Utopia. 1. Mapping nowhere. The endpoint of a limitless dream may be a peopled place where flesh and blood and the raw beauty of birth exists, and starch apparently. Being born to truck the impossible to the farthest shore by hand if necessary requires sturdy boots. The present isn't impossible, but its premise. 2. Midnight's Dream. Model goes to war with model, with man, in hand-locked rudder, utterly at the will of the abstraction that loans him heart to beat, his interest carried far beyond any love requitable by night's promises. To step out of the game, one frame even, is to render all that preceded by light's cold cleavage, the bloodless cut compounding fracture of frames, and all the stories bursting their skins. Severance of expectation from its eve, retasting apple as apple, not fruit, as if held hope, not death's prerogative to punish the indecency in calling the real thing a name. Let's call her Alice. Capable of calling back and back across the water. Midnight's dream reworks days, a mix of misplaced goddesses robbed by scheduled schemes, by the impossible place of even war, the botched reconstruction in chalk and charcoal of what we thought the future should have been, a feint of echoes, an etched palimpsest. 3. News of the universe. When you hold the stars in your hands each morning, reading the news as auroras rise from your coffee in a cold light, how do you arrange the constellations, turn them into words? Have Hesperus and Phosphorus confounded the conjunction of yourself and world like they did each other? Pissed in your Percipi? The door is ajar and it is cold outside. Come back now to where you were sitting. All right, here we go. There are 16 of these and more than 16 of you. So what I thought we would do is the first person who can recite the Mahabharata in reverse gets one. No, we'll make it simpler. I'll just put them over by the basket, and if people want one, they may take it. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Diane.
Well, thank you for coming tonight. This is a little shorter evening, but so grateful that you all came. Thank you again. Let's give a big round of applause to Anthony Ceballos, Marion, and the guy with all the beautiful photographs. I thought that was amazing, actually. So thank you, Joel Turnipseed.
Yeah.
So thank you all for coming, and come again in April when we're talking about birds and other things. So thank you so much. Some of us will be heading out to Sweeney's to hang out for a while, and you're certainly welcome to join us. Thanks again. Take care.